If you've been married at least once in your lifetime, then you know that sharing your life with someone comes with ups and downs, to say the least. And you can even feel disconnected at some stages from them.
Well, with the divorce rate increasing every year, couples aged 50 and above seem to be more keen to untie their knots as soon as the children leave the nest. So we're asking today, if you're unhappy, is it really better to wait until the kids have left home before you separate?
Well, joining us this morning, Matthew Albiges, who's a relationship expert at Aligned with Love. And Matthew thinks stability gives a good foundation for growth.
Yes, and also his wife, Rebeca, Perea, who thinks couples shouldn't stay together if the relationship is unhealthy.
So this is very interesting in that you're married, you're relationship experts, but actually on this one you feel differently. So who do we speak to first? Let's come to you, Rebeca. You think you should, if you really are that unhappy, you should split, no matter what time.
Exactly. First of all, when couples come to us saying that they want to save their relationship for the sake of the children, that's very honorable to think of the well-being of your children. However, if the couple is not in a loving space with each other, it's never a good solution. I don't recommend it at all, because the children are absorbing and modeling the parents' attitude, how they're feeling, their body language, how they speak, the tonality of voice, how they look at each other. They're observing all the time their parents, they're modeling them, either consciously, unconsciously. I don't think it's a good idea at all if the couple is not in a loving space with each other.
So, Matthew, if Rebecca thinks that, why do you think it's as well to fight on through, to battle on through, to keep going until the kids are old enough?
Absolutely, Stephen. I think for so many couples, a big part of their vision, their dream for the relationship, why they're together, their purpose for making a life together is to have a family and to have children and to support their children. So if the relationship's not working, it can, be such a great opportunity to work on the relationship, to make it a positive, loving, respectful, supportive place, so that they can support the children effectively. And I think that's a really valid and worthwhile dream for so many couples and families.
But Matthew, isn't there plenty of evidence that if you stay together for the sake of the children until they're older and then you split, that can be just as upsetting for older children?
It can, and actually even more damaging. In fact, the statistics say that staying together in a failing relationship is the worst of all outcomes. Yeah. So where things are not working, what I'm talking about is a situation where couples are really committed to modeling and demonstrating the best kind of relationship for their kids. Because I absolutely agree, Anne, that if it's not working, that really is the worst, not only for the individuals involved, but for the children as well.
So is there a sense with this, Rebecca, that actually it's worth at least trying, even if you're using the children almost as an excuse to stay together? If there's anything which you can salvage from the relationship, it's a good excuse to use to try and keep on going.
That's a very good question, Stephen, because the children, our children, can be sometimes the catalyst of our relationship, because they can be the cause, the reason for us to stay together when we would actually give up because we're tired of being tired. We're tired of feeling resentful. We're tired of talking for nothing, just feeling like we're talking to a brick wall, So because of the children, we can save our relationship and then be very happy. But also sometimes it can feel like our children are actually a nightmare, and that's the only reason why we keep up the show running, when actually it depends on how you want to look at it. So that our children can be a lovely blessing that could save us sometimes.
Matthew, according to the evidence as well, there's a growing divorce rate amongst the over 50s who, it is suggested, are doing just what you're saying. They're staying together for as long as they possibly can until the children are old enough to be able to handle it, I guess. And then they are taking the decision to split up. You wonder why. If they've been able to stick together for that long, couldn't they try and make it through into later life too?
It's a great question, Angela. I'm just going to say that, you know, the fact that people stay together, sometimes we look at the divorce statistics and say, well, wow, a lot of people getting divorced. But what that really hides, and I think is an even more interesting point, which is that how many of the ones that remain together are really happy? Because you might think, well, they're together, so that's success. But when you actually look at what's happening in the relationship and how it's affecting them individually, their state of mind, their mental health, their children, you say, well, is it really a success anyway? So really the question of whether they stay together is more a question, well, are they happy? Is the relationship working? And, are they learning the lessons that the relationship is giving them?
Do you think, Rebecca, that people marry for the right reasons? I mean, if you get married because you feel you're of an age when you should be, or if you get married because you feel like you should be having children at this stage, I mean, you can't expect it to be all roses and happiness for the rest of your days, can you?
That's a very good question, Stephen. Exactly. Do people marry for the right reasons? Most of the time, I would say no. Not everyone marries for the right reasons because sometimes we want to feel happy. So we think when we have a child, when we have a partner, when I buy a house, when I get that job, I will be happy. But the reality is, if we are not feeling happy right now with where we are at and what we have, we're never gonna be happy. The happiness comes from within and is projected out into what we call reality, into what we create. It could be our children. But if we're not happy, we're not gonna be happy just because we're gonna have a child, just because we're gonna get married, because we're not a match for happiness if we're not happy right now.
Are you two happy?
We're in a pretty good place most of the time. We have our moments, we working together, living together, having our family. It's not without its challenges, but I think we're in a pretty good place. We like to try and lead by example as much as possible. We keep our arguments off screen, let's say.
Glad to hear it. Well, we'll say thank you very much and goodbye, and you can go and have a row about it in the kitchen now.